Hello, everybody. I'm Candace James. I am the person that kind of more or less runs Silver Bowl Publishing. I have a few other people helping me, but I'm the one that makes most of the decisions, and I enjoy doing it. And I've got some beautiful books that have been put out by a lot of authors internationally. And today is one of the best books I've ever read. Here it is, and it's by Yuan Changming, and it is it's basically his life story, and it's very, very, very interesting. Anybody that doesn't buy it is really missing out on a treasure trove of beautiful, not only beautiful, like there's so many things in it. Actually, Megan will be able to give you the rundown, but there's everything is in this book. It's basically a fictionalized non-fiction, I believe. So back to you, and all these books can be bought at your local bookstore, and you can order them in. They probably won't have them sitting there because they're not bestsellers yet. So just order them in through the name and the name and the author. And if you can go onto our website, you'll get the ISBN. So if they say we can't order it, say, oh, here's the ISBN, and they'll get it in for you just like that. So now back to Megan, the major cyclist of the West Coast.
Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be your host for today. My name is Megan Hakkinen. I'm a two-time world champion ultra cyclist and the author of two adventure memoirs, and I'm the Silver Bow Press virtual host. I'm excited to introduce our celebrated author today and hear a bit from this collection, or this book, Towards a Trilogy. So our author is Yuan Changming. Yuan grew up in a remote village, started to learn the English alphabet in Shanghai at age 19, and published monographs on translation before leaving China. With a PhD in English, Yuan currently lives in Vancouver, where he has worked as a freelance tutor, translator, and publisher. Writing credits include 15 Pushcart nominations and 16 poetry collections, besides appearances in Best of the Best Canadian Poetry, 2008 to 2017, New Poems Online, and over 2,200 other literary outlets across 52 countries. You can find Yuan online at pacificpoetry.blogspot.com, and you can find Silver Bow books, including Towards, at silverbowpublishing.com. I'm excited to hear from this new release and hear Yuan read some for us. And then we're going to do a bit of an interview and talk a bit more about the work. So without further ado, Yuan, you have the stage.
So shall I do a little reading first?
We'd love to hear you. Yeah, you can dive right in and share some with us.
Okay. So I will read a passage from the beginning. And this passage actually was conceived about 40 or 45 years ago when I was a young man. But at that time, I didn't know how to write a book. And of course, I was never intending to write a novel like this. But I just had a dream about writing a book. So I had this beginning a long, long time ago. I had never finished it. So that's why the opening passage is very important to me. So I'd like to begin with this. Okay, the first chapter is called Call from the Yonder. I'm already spent. What on earth is actually good about living? What meaning is there, if any at all? For as long as I can remember, I have been haunted by a strange, ineffable lethargy, a weight that renders me apathetic toward everything, everyone, and my own existence. You look like a man waiting for a bus that's never coming, Menin had told me over tea the other day. I'm not waiting for a bus, Menin, I replied, watching the stream rise. I'm waiting for the courage to walk away from the station entirely. To where? You have everything here in Vancouver. The house, the status, the peace. The peace of a graveyard, I said. I didn't tell him then, but I'm truly tired. Tired of accumulating wealth like a petty money-making machine. Tired of chasing things without being sure if I really need them. I'm tired of playing games with smart fellows, those sociopaths ready to strike with a deadly bite like rattlesnakes. I'm tired of changing masks for different human situations, tired of speaking against my natural inclinations. I'm tired of telling lies for various reasons. I'm tired of the roles I perform in so many different situations. I'm so tired that for at least 300 nights before sleep, I have imagined myself leaving this world of red dust quite quietly, much like an African elephant, too sick or too old to continue journeying with his herd, setting off alone for the thick jungle to find a spot for profound respite before dying. The time seems to have finally come for my departure. I'm fully prepared, now that I have won all I have striven for, reasonably good health, an adequate wife, a mortgage-free house in a high-end neighborhood, and a doctorate extremely difficult for someone from a remote Chinese village to obtain. I have every reason to feel content, and in a secular sense, I am. While most other first-generation immigrants are still toiling, I have fully realized my Canadian dream. However, despite these achievements, I'm constantly bothered by this weariness. Perhaps it is because I have lost my direction, or failed to find the true meaning after all. Naturally, for the past few years, I have nurtured a desire to run away from this life in the fast lane, so overfilled with sound and fury. But where to go? Within Canada, there's no place like an African jungle for the dying elephant. I often thought of Tibet, yet with a deformed heart muscle, the ischemia would be more than I could bear. I found opinion to go to Mount Zhongnan to join the contemporary hermits, but I dislike total isolation. After much deliberation, I decided to follow the advice of an ancient Chinese sage. The lesser hermit lives in wider seclusion, whereas the greater hermit lives amidst city dwellers. So this is the opening passage. And this is for the first volume. For the second volume, I would just like to read the first sentence and the last paragraph. When Ming leaves the Richmond Zen Center, he has to return to home because of the outbreak of the pandemic, COVID-19. When there's no better place on earth to go, home is the best hotel for a wandering soul. Because to me, home should be a permanent settlement. But actually, as I find out, home is just another hotel for me, or for the main character in the book. So, speaking of the lockdowns during the pandemic, I might not have become so crazy about you without them. Don't you think it is exactly this isolation that has made our hearts grow fonder? Isn't this that positive mentality you talk about so often? COVID-19 has really served us as a kind of marriage broker. And much more, you see, it has also led me to produce more poetry, to cultivate Chan in a different sense, to find a more suitable way to complete my soul, and even to enter. Hold on, I don't quite follow you, Hua interrupted. Where are you headed, anyway? Just follow me to Chan, or to Tao. But I'm not really fond of such mysterious stuff. Then follow me to ultimate happiness. No matter where it leads, you're already on the right track. So I should make lemonade when you hand me lemons, she added. YOLO, just as being in love means practicing Chan, which can be seen as the spiritual version of love. Living with love is the highest form of practice. For better or for worse, I've already boarded the wrong train anyway, she said. So there's no use running along the corridor, is there? Okay. So for volume 3, I will just read the first passage and a poem which I end the entire book. So life is not merely about gains and pains. Poetry and yonder it also contains. Ever since Hua departed Melbourne for the follow-up checkup on her lungs, an occasion she once described as a God-given excuse to return to Zhuhai alone, I have also traveled far, crossing half the planet just to see her in person. Indeed, we have waited for this moment for too long, nearly half a century, simply to join each other in body as in spirit. 1,000 times over, I have vividly visualized and fervently anticipated our reunion in our shared native place, Songzi. And this is the poem. Actually, I expanded this poem into another cultural philosophical novel titled Gaston, the same title as this poem. And the book is completed. I'm ready to make submissions later this year. Actually, that one would be even more ambitious than this trilogy. Actually, it's an extension of this trilogy. Okay, this is the poem, which we actually published a couple of times, or I don't know, half dozen of times already. But now the title is called Gaxiden. It's a name I coined. While all my fellow humans hope to enter heaven after they die, I'm alone living in paradise already. An earthly realm I have built myself with the light from Lapland, where the setting sun shines with the morning glows above golden snow. The air from Shangri-La, where the yin and the yang are in pure and perfect balance with each other in every grass, every cloud. The water from Waterton Lakes, which reflect the mountain of the trees as clearly as the mountain reflects upon the clear water. That's all my spirit needs, not the fragments of the meaning about Eden long lost, but the whole backyard within my solitary heart. And the last paragraph of this whole book is, which I would like to read. Finally, as we settle into the hermitage of our shared life, our Gaxiden, the lingual cultural friction of our past have finally stilled. There are no more ambiguous or explicit yeses, only the quiet virtue of the detour we took to get here. We have found our own Eden, not by returning to the start, but by following the harsh fork in the road until the road itself became home. Okay, so much for my reading.
Thank you
That's all.
so much, Yuan. That was wonderful to hear a bit from so many different parts of this new release. I have a few questions for you, and I'm just really excited to hear a bit more. So, like every seminal work of art, your trilogy must have a compelling origin story. And I'm wondering, how did Towards come into being?
Well, like many authors, I harbored a dream of writing my own magnum opus at a young age. Actually, when I was actually attending my first MA in Tianjin Teachers University about 40 years ago. Though the subject matter remained elusive for decades, I had no idea about what to write. I just had an idea. The seeds were sown in 2000 when I wrote 170,000 character diary letter to my first love, detailing our life experiences since our departure from each other in 1980. After friends' very harsh critique in 2002, I abandoned the project for nearly 20 years. Not only the project, but the whole little dream. I think I didn't believe I was a good writer, so that's why I gave up the whole idea. I threw everything into the garbage. So I stopped dreaming about any literary projects. It took a re-encounter with my first crush in 2019 to reignite the flame. During the pandemic, I composed nearly 200 love pieces for her, but I got most of them published actually individually in the States and Canada and in the English-speaking countries. Actually, I'm going to compile a whole book. It's a record-breaking something. Okay, so but I soon realized that poetry, while intense, could not contain the sheer scale of my longing. During Christmas week of 2021, I turned to prose. Actually, that was the first time in my life to write creative prose in English. So within 3 months, actually 100 days, the raw draft of 2 words was complete. Without my personal muse, I would never have bridged the gap between the record-breaking love poetry and expensive philosophical prose. So thanks for my personal muse. Otherwise, I would never have accomplished this. Yes, that's the origin story of the book.
Wow, That certainly is unique.
Yeah.
I love how I love the grand time scale of everything too, you know, just the real long game of it.
Yeah, that's a long story, yes.
So between the first draft in 2022 and this release by Silverbow Publishing, you know, happening right now in 2026, how did the manuscript evolve?
Well, it's quite a complicated story, but make it short. Uh, as usual, whenever I finish writing something, I would put aside for at least half a year. In this case, I put aside the manuscript for about 10 months before I come back to do the revision and the polishing. And after I finalize the manuscript, I send out in May 2023. And 3 months later, it was almost immediately accepted by another independent small press in LA-based press, which is called Running Wild and Rice. And the publisher said she's very, very much interested in the book. She wants to get out as soon as possible. But it turns out that, as I later find out, the editor kept playing games with me and kept me waiting for 2 years in anxiety. And eventually, she said, for personal reasons, she had to give up. But in the process, fortunately, she mentioned in a very nice and polite way that there are two things she found very difficult to deal with. One thing is the second point of view in volume 2, which I already used for the zooming in effect. And the second part is that there are too many bilingual elements between Chinese and English to go along between the two cultures. She found it's difficult to deal with. So I know that it was these two editorial hurdles that prevented the book from eventually coming out. So eventually it suffered soft rejection from that company. So even the publisher still kept trying to find another editor for the project. I had to reclaim it and I withdraw it because I don't want to lose the chance with her. And then last year, I sent it to another press, and also the publisher is very much interested in it. She encouraged me to send her the whole manuscript immediately, but something happened in the situation. I had a similar experience with the editor. So again, I feel so depressed that I eventually I found my champion, Candice James, and without her insightful expertise, I would never have find a good publisher for my book, and that's why I'm very grateful to her and to her press, Silverbow Publishing. Without her insightful editorial experience, I would never find. I know that it is a good book. Otherwise, at least 2 or 3 publishers before Candice James find it extremely interesting, and they said they have a good market there. They said it's good, even if there's no big market. It's a good book to publish. But eventually, I suffered from editorial hurdles. So, but happily, every ends well. How to put it? Everything is well when it ends well.
That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the publishing industry is really tricky, and I'm sorry you had those negative experiences, but Silverbow is lucky to scoop you up. So I'm glad it worked out that way in the end.
Yeah, that's true.
You've called towards your most ambitious project. What sets it apart?
Well, personally, this is the greatest project I've ever taken, because when I was actually doing my PhD, my roommate often make fun of me because I would always spend 10 hours trying to conceive a single paragraph in prose for my dissertation, and taking me a whole year to write a 300-page long dissertation, and it drive me nuts every day. But so that's why this project is a great challenge to me, because it's a long prose work. But happily, within 3 months, I finished it. And what is particularly ambitious about it is, first of all, is the radical hybrid, because within the narrative, I have integrated almost every literary genre or sub-genre, such as poetry, drama, travelogue, memoir, diary, and modern digital correspondence, text messages, everything. So even notes, through the protagonist mean, I explore the total spectrum of the human condition. I mean, thematically is also very, I try to get it, to tell a grand narrative, as people often say, bridging macro concerns like geopolitics and philosophy with micro realities, like infidelity and spiritual cultivation on a personal level. It is an encyclopedic representation of contemporary life across two continents. By contrasting two eras and two cultures, I hope to encourage a more open-minded, respectful global dialogue. That's what I'm trying to do. So it's very ambitious from personal point of view. Yeah.
It is very ambitious. So my
Mm.
next question was, what is the central message you hope to convey through Ming's journey? And does it have something to do with that global dialogue you were talking about?
Yeah. The central hook is a fundamental question of the soul. What happens after one achieves the Canadian dream, American dream, or Chinese dream? Everybody has a dream, and everybody tries to fulfill the dream. But once the dream is fulfilled, what after that? So that's my central message. I want readers to ponder whether happiness is merely success, or if it requires something deeper. In my view, the dream provides the material foundation, but love and spiritual growth form the superstructure of happiness. To reach this higher state, man must follow a specific trajectory. He must first detach from the material red dust, or the secular world. Second, derail from conventional relationships to find the raw love. And the third, detour from the natural world to harmonize his spirit. Happiness is the immediate goal, but spiritual wholeness is the ultimate purpose of life. Yeah. That's my central message. Yes.
Oh, no, that's really, really interesting. I love
Mhm.
that. Aside from your muse, what were the primary literary influences for this trilogy?
That's a very interesting question. Usually, whenever I write creative work, poetry or stories, short stories, or other things, I refuse to be influenced by anybody else. I just write whatever comes out of my own mind. But when I wrote this book, I had the three authors in my mind, because it happens I just finished reading the three books. So I write to make my own life meaningful, but I believe I see the trilogy as a challenge to and a dialogue with the world literature. If the first volume, Detaching, Aimless, be a porter's road to heaven, which actually I think is just an outsider observation of the long or 2,000 long Chinese tradition of hermiting. But the author is is better known among Chinese readers than in English speaking word, although it's published in English, because when it translates into Chinese, and it become a hit, it become very popular. So that's why. So I thought my book is written from inside, because I myself am a hermit. I seldom come out of my life, out of my home to meet with people or to communicate with the outside world. So I have practiced in a science center for a long time. And actually, I am one of them. It's not, I'm writing about myself, in other words. So this is the inside experience, not the outside observation. So that's the first part. The second part, the derailing, serves as a parallel to Orhan Pamuk's famous The Museum of Innocence. Perhaps I just read that book in English. And but that book is about abnormal romantic relationship between two passionate young people. But in my book, I'm talking about actual marital relationship between two seniors, because I want to show to the world that the senior people, after retirement, they are still capable of love and still capable of romantic relationship. They are still capable of being inspired to do creative things. So that's something different from the Museum of of innocence. And the third volume, The Tutoring, stands as a direct challenge to the Japanese author Junichi Wanatabe's Lost Paradise, which is extremely popular, and it has been translated into 60 different languages in the world. And it was one of the most popular love stories among Chinese readers. But I think her book reads like a pornograph. It focuses too much attention on the sexual aspect of the experience of the relationship. But in my book, I think it's also an experimental, actual marital relationship, abnormal relationship, romantic one. But I explore the spiritual aspects of the relationship rather than the sexual aspect. So I think I'm not trying to beat him. I'm trying to say there's something more important to abnormal romantic relationship than sex. So that's why I have these three authors in mind. I'm not trying to imitate them. Actually, I'm trying to challenge them in different ways. So every part is a challenge in a different way.
Oh, I love that. I love when works of literature and authors can have a conversation kind of with each other, right? And I feel like your writing is a bit in response to this and not
Yes,
like you
yes.
said, it's not an imitation, but it's still in conversation with and you're kind of taking something um and and using it like as an inspiration but in a very different way, so that's really neat to see, and I think that helps create and cultivate a broad, interesting, lively literature and literary world. So that's really great to hear a bit about your process there.
Mhm.
um, well, before we wrap up our questions, we have Candace James here. I was wondering if you had any questions for the author, Candace.
Well, I don't really have questions, but I do want to say he is really a great writer. His book is constantly interesting from beginning to end. And that's no mean feat because a lot of books you go through and you know, boring, boring, boring. But he's an excellent writer, keeps your attention. And I remember when I first got the manuscript, I took a look at it and I thought, this is really good. But one thing bothered me, and I told him right away, I need you to choose, forget second person, either first or third, and do it all the way through. He had it back to me in 7 days, totally changed. I could not believe it. I mean, it was amazing. And I thought, boy, now it's perfect. It was just, it had a couple of tenses in there that were kind of throwing me, and I needed it to be one all the way through. And boy, just amazing. But I couldn't believe he got it back to me in 7 days.
I work 12 hours a day.
Well, that's some commitment right there. It sounds like a really great working relationship that you two have to bring this publication to light.
It's a great book.
Actually,
I'm sure it's going to do very well. It's just a lot of books it takes time. You know, one person tells another. So sometimes it takes a couple of years, but it will be a big seller because it's got everything.
Mm. Um, Yuan, do you have an idea of who your target reader is for this book, or what kind of market opportunities there is for kind of a complex work like this? Is this something you were thinking of when you were writing it, or, in anywhere in the process?
well, I love that question actually because when I wrote it, I have an intention. It's my intention to write for people like us, people like because I belong to the boomer generation. And I think all of us are getting old nowadays. This is the largest population in the world in history. So I want to write something for me as well for all my fellow senior people of my age. So uh, uh, especially those in the silver age between say 65 to 75, right after the retirement, because we're not that old, we can still move around, but we have retired from our work as well from our routine jobs or responsibilities. And we can afford the time, we can afford the energy, and we can afford the heart even to develop new relationships, to find something more creative or to do. So I think those people who are interested in romance and spiritual health, especially seniors, still interested in romance and spiritual health. I think spiritual is the foundation of physical health. That's one of my basic point of view. So that's why I want to people like me of my age become healthier by cultivating spiritual health. Will find themselves in these pages. While bilingual hybrid work like this poses a major market risk, I know that. It also offers unique opportunities at the same time. This is a story of seniors enough on the surface structure of it, of course. But on the deep structure of the book, it's something much more than that. And that is ripe for film adaptation or Chinese translation, hopefully in the future. The superstructure of the story is, after all, universal. So that's our primary and secondary target and readerships. Yes.
Well, thanks for explaining that. I feel I often write for an audience of people that are, kind of similar to me, and so it makes sense to hear that from an author like you as well. And like you kind of explained, it's a great demographic to be writing for right now.
Yeah.
My last question for you is just congratulating you once again. This trilogy is a massive achievement. Can you tell us about any other projects in the works right now before we say goodbye?
Uh, yeah. Thank you for your encouragement comments. And actually, I didn't begin to write prose until December 27th, 2021. Before that time, I never wrote a single line of creative prose. But since then, I have written, I've actually published a short story collection. I have published a civil romance, which is called the Tuna, which is actually as Candice just put it, she used a very poetic word, fictionalized non-creation. But that one is non-fictionalized fiction. It is called the Tuna. 16 most Morris days. It was published two years ago already. And also I published about 55 short stories, and I wrote 8 of them. And I just published another non-creative collection of short essays. Actually, almost exactly the same time as Kindness released my book Tours, and also I wrote about 230 novel poems at the same time. And as I mentioned before, I just finished my final, most recent, even more ambitious book, Accident. And all this within 4 years. And all this thanks to the same one person. That's my personal muse. Without this person, I would never have done that. I could never even imagine I could have done so much things. So I hope that my muse would inspire me to write more things. That's all.
Oh, well, you have no shortage of it sounds like you have no shortage of ideas and projects, and I feel like you've got a lot of great energy to put out into the world, and I really hope that you keep doing that and share some of that with Silverbow.
Mm.
Well, this wraps up our virtual launch for Towards a Trilogy by Yuan Changming with Silverbow Publishing. Thank you, Yuan, for reading from the new release and for talking so much about your process and your muse and sharing so much about your work with us. And thanks, Candice, for being here as well today. Yuan's new release, Towards, is available worldwide in ebook and print versions from Silverbow Publishing. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you pick up a copy of this new book.
Thank you. Thank you all.